Hey everybody, Douglas Blair Roberts here, the Super Vader 400, and of course the brown skin human coming back at you with another movie series review intro. My previous movie series review intro, whenever I uploaded to YouTube, for some odd reason, the newest, the Crush 40 upload of Sonic What I'm Made Of, their uploaded version for some odd reason has a copyright on it, and whenever I see, and the copyright is actually not a problem according to YouTube, but if I ever want to set this account up for monetization, it will be a problem. So I'm going to do a remade version using two non-copyrighted songs. Even though this is an intro for movie reviews and rants, the What I'm Made Of will from now on this channel will only be the outro, and I'll use one of the old school non-copyrighted uploads of Sonic What I'm Made Of. The intros will feature the Sonic Heroes theme, which I haven't used in a long time, and of course the iconic We Can that I use a lot now. Everywhere on every other platform, the intros, I will use the old intro. So with that being said, let's get started right now. Hey everybody, it's time for my part 3 off-camera webcam review overview of the anime television Street Fighter 2 Victory. This is the part 1 season 1 review. Of course, the next part will be season 2 and with the outro. No video footage will play in the background for this. I want to save some for the much more awesome real life superhero review. Yeah. To see the original parts, the part 1 and 2 regular and real life superhero versions, the links will be in the description box below. Yeah, Street Fighter 2 Victory. Finally wanted to get around to talk, like I said in the narration portions, wanted to get around to talking about this one again. For those of you who who follow me on Facebook and other forms of social media, I've already reviewed this anime grouped together with Street Fighter with the animated series, since both aired at the same time. But this is me for the first time on this channel talking about them separately. Yeah, I talk about the animated series, the 1995. I talk about that one all the time, but let me talk about this one, the anime series, which both aired around the same time. They both aired through 1995 through 97, except I think this one aired a little earlier, and it finished earlier too. Yeah, Street Fighter 2 Victory, just like the Street Fighter, the animated series, the 1994 live-action film, and the anime film. I saw this for the first time as a teenager at 12 and 13 when I was really getting into anime, and I loved it because I didn't know much about Street Fighter lore outside of its video game. What I already knew, except for what I already knew about the video games. However, later when I became like 15 and 16. When I became like 15 and 16, I still liked the show. I was still a huge anime fan at the time. I still liked the show. However, at that time I learned more about Street Fighter lore, and I had an issue with the liberties this took with the source material. So I didn't turn on the series. I didn't abandon it, but I sort of looked down on it when comparing it to other pieces, other forms of Street Fighter media in the large video game franchise. When it comes to its place, I consider this to be the third best of Street Fighter, the third or fourth best of Street Fighter adaptations, with the supreme best being Street Fighter. The Udon comics. That is supreme best. That has everything Street Fighter. The best in film and on television is the animated series and Alpha, the animation. Those are, in my opinion, the best and closest adaptations of Street Fighter, alongside the Udon, which is the supreme best, because the Udon comic books has everything Street Fighter. They've adapted everything Street Fighter from 2 all the way to 5. Yeah, those are supreme best. Number 2 is the iconic Street Fighter 2 anime film, which started it all. That's the second best. The third and fourth is this right here. However, rewatching this anime again, I have even much more appreciation for it. It's even better now than it was when I was a kid and when I was a kid and teenager. It's even better now, and I like how this show, before it was canceled, it was leading right into Street Fighter 2. See, this, even though it's loosely based on Street Fighter 2, the storyline is sometime before Street Fighter 2, as Ryu and Ken, their birth dates and ages are changed. Ryu and Ken were both born in the mid-60s, which will put them in their late 20s, early 30s at the time of the original Street Fighter 2. However, here, they're depicted as 17. They're born in the late 70s and depicted as 17 years old here. And even though this is supposed to be Street Fighter 2, this feels more like Street Fighter Alpha, Final Fight, and the Fatal Fury anime with a little mixture of Double Dragon and Streets of Rage. But going back to the main ones, the Street Fighter Alpha, before Capcom scrapped this series and created their own version of Street Fighter Alpha. This was Street Fighter Alpha, and it feels more like Street Fighter Alpha than it does 2. it feels more like Street Fighter Alpha does too. Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Fei Long, and everyone depicted here is depicted as younger here than they appear in the Street Fighter 2 than they are in the Street Fighter 2 video game and anime movie that came before it. Yeah, the pros to this is some of the best fighting you would see in an anime I consider this to be one of the best fight animes of all time, and some of the coolest and most unique redesigned artwork and animation. These were the pros over the American cartoon, which I thought was much better. But these are the pros here. Also, it's much more serious in tone, even though the comedy and the goofy nature of the American cartoon is one of the things I like the most about that cartoon. But this is much more serious in how probably Street Fighter should be. All the animes are much more how Street Fighter should be portrayed and be. So, yeah, and this was another issue I had. This has a small cast, but the characters they feature here are great, and some of the best renditions of these characters. The characters featured here are Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Guile, Fei Long, Balrog, Cammy, Sagat, Vega, Bison, and Zangief. And with a heavily redesigned appearance, because this is before he was introduced in the Alpha, Charlie appears here too. Charlie and Akuma appears in cameos, but he doesn't play a big part in the story. He doesn't play any part in the story really at all. He just appears in multiple cameos. Yeah. I'll talk about Akuma's what would be his venture role in the series in the next portion, which is the season 2. Yeah. This right here, like most cartoons and animes in the 90s, the season 1 is always weak. Season 1 is always weak. The season 2 and following seasons are usually always better, because season 1 is pretty much an introductory arc for Street Fighter 2 Victory. Introduces you to all the characters who will have bigger roles in the next part. That's Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Guile, Fei Long. Really happy they included Fei Long. A lot of Street Fighters didn't make the cut. Really happy Fei Long made the cut. Fei Long, Cammy, Balrog, and Dawson and Sagat. They're all introduced here, but they have bigger roles in part 2. So that's Street Fighter 2. Victory. The plot is, and this is one of the things I didn't like also. The plot is young martial artists Ryu and Ken, after sneaking into a nightclub and beating the daylights out of Guile's men. Guile challenges to a fight and beats the living tar out of both of them back to back different days, and Ryu and Ken want to join. Ryu and Ken did decide they have a lot to learn about martial arts, and decide to go on a worldwide journey and quest to fight the best and strongest martial arts in the world, to test their skills against the strongest martial artists in the world. And that's how this eponymous Street Fighter journey and adaptation begins. The first 7 episodes were weak, as they had little to do with actual the Street Fighter lore, apart from the Street Fighter characters themselves. It's episode 8 where the series picks up, where Ryu is framed for heroin and sent to prison where he gets into a fight with the other prisoners and meets Sagat, who initially hated and wanted to beat respect into Ryu. However, Ryu and Sagat develop respect for each other in a after in a kickboxing match where this version, one of the things I did like about this version, just like the animated series, this version predicted Sagat's babyface, him becoming a good guy, and this has the most sad and tragic version of Sagat I've ever seen, where he was an honorable Muay Thai warrior. He was the god of Muay Thai, just like in the games, However, he was framed by Shadaloo, who destroyed his reputation and framed and sent to prison, sent to prison. So yeah, and then you got sent to prison. Now, changes to their personalities. Love Sagat. Love the changes they made to Sagat. It's probably the best version of Sagat ever. Now, Guile and now Ryu, Ken. I don't like the changes they made to Ryu and Ken and Guile, especially Ryu, who got it the worst. One thing I couldn't stand. This is both the American and Japanese. This is both the American and Japanese television series. Both of the television series. Ryu is depicted as weaker in these two adaptations. Both of these adaptations, the American cartoon and the anime television series, he's depicted as weaker compared to the powerhouse he was in the anime movie preceding this, the Alpha, the animation movie that came after this, the Udon comic books, and the original video game lore itself. He's depicted as extremely weak, but it was to make Ryu a much more interesting. I now don't mind it as much. It was to make Ryu and Ken a much more interesting character. They made Ryu and Ken two brash, young, cocky upstart kids, which made it difficult for me to root for them in the first half of the series. But it was a character journey where they will start as this, and they will slowly become their namesake characters from the show. And once again, it was supposed to be a prequel to the events of Street Fighter 2. It's supposed to be what happened before Street Fighter 2. So yeah, Chun-Li is depicted as younger too. She's a lot more cheerful and bubbly and youthful here compared to the super stoic, no-nonsense Interpol officer she is in the video game. But this is the younger Chun-Li. This is Chun-Li at 17 years old versus her mid to late 20s, early 30s, which she is in the video game series. And who else? Guile. Guile is just like he was. In every adaptation. However, one thing I like about Guile here, Guile was also depicted as weaker here. He can do the flash kick, but he doesn't have the sonic boom chi related maneuvers in this version. So, people, now it's time for the season 2 portion of Street Fighter 2 Victory. This season was way better than the first one. The first one is a little bit more memorable. I can remember more of the first one more. But season 2 was way better. One thing I like about this season was this how it was with most cartoons in the 90s. The season 1 was weak because it was usually an introductory arc. The season 2 was way better as the story becomes larger and they get more into Street Fighter lore this series. More Street Fighters who were introduced in part 1 appear, and the plots and episodes are way more. Episodes and fights are even way more exciting this season than they were the last season. Ryu and Ken learn the secrets of the Hadouken, and they Ryu and Ken and the other characters everyone fully transforms into his or her own Street Fighter character. Street Fighter character. Ken does battle with Vega, taking Chun-Li's spot from the anime movie, and defeats him with the Shoryuken. And Ken and Chun-Li get kidnapped by Bison, where Bison gets Chun-Li into a new outfit similar to her Street Fighter 2 costume. And what else? Cammy takes out Cammy takes out Balrog. Cammy takes out Balrog and turns him into the authorities. And what else? And Guile, even though he doesn't like Ryu and Ken, he's charged with rescuing them when Ken and Chun-Li get kidnapped, and Ryu goes after them. There's also a brief moment where Ryu approaches a door where Ken and Bison are, where Ken and Bison, where he needs a Hadouken. He needs to do a memorable Hadouken ceremony where he waves his hands. He waves his hands and charges the Hadouken, and this awesome theme plays. The memorable instrumental theme plays in the background. Still had some awesome, phenomenal music too. And one of the rare times the English dub is better than the Japanese dub. You have the iconic "Burn Some Muscle" quote, which is the narrator says at the beginning and end of each episode during the recap and the preview for next episode. You got the main character. Oh yeah. Then we got the iconic instrumental Street Fighter theme. Then you have and part 2 also, since it's from the same creators, Street Fighter 2 Victory features also several storylines from the Street Fighter 2 anime. Despite being from the same creators, they're not related to each other. This is neither a prequel nor a sequel to the Street Fighter 2 anime film that came before this, but they have similar plot lines. Ryu and Ken fight Bison in the final battle. Bison kidnaps one of them. I think it's Ryu here, and turns him into a bison doll briefly, and Guile is charged with rescuing and warning Ryu about something, and trying to rescue him and Ken, just like he was in the him and Chun-Li also work together, just like they did in the anime film. And Ryu does battle with Sagat, just like he does in the anime film. And the final battle features Ryu and Ken teaming up to defeat Bison. Bison with the double Hadoukens, and this is one of my favorite parts where Ryu and Ken fully become Ryu and Ken. They learn in the beginning. They learn the true purpose of their power and arts. They learn that their power and martial arts skills are not for personal gain and glory. It's and that they were cocky and arrogant, and their power is to save the world from people like Bison. Fully transforming and becoming Ryu and Ken. And like I said, this was supposed to be before Capcom scrapped this and created their own version with Street Fighter Alpha, their own prequel with Street Fighter Alpha. This was supposed to be a prototype to Street Fighter Alpha, and what the people who made this movie, their version of what happened before Street Fighter 2. And everyone, you can see how this cartoon was going to segue and lead right into the Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Turbo series. Unfortunately, much to my surprise, this show was way more popular here than it was in Japan. It wasn't well received in Japan, and that caused Capcom to scrap it and come up with their own prequel. Like I said, as a teenager, I had issues with the liberties they took, but after rewatching it again, another awesome adaptation of Street Fighter, and them taking liberties with source material doesn't bother me anymore, because no matter how much Capcom says they're canon, none of these are canon. These are all adaptations in alternate form, in alternate timelines of Street Fighter. All the adaptations. The only supreme canon one is the video game. Not even the Udon comics, which is widely considered the most canon, as it mentioned the games the most. I actually thought the Udon comics was the game in comic book form, but it's not. It's completely different after rereading the Udon comics and replaying and rereading the actual video game story. So yeah, definitely bringing back the post-episode review and reaction so I can talk more in depth what happens in each episode without these becoming way too long. Probably the shortest review I've done, is I barely know much about the series. So yeah, this was Street Fighter 2 Victory. You want to hear the rest of to see the original parts, the links will be in the description box below. And to see the larger Part 2 real life superhero version with with episode footage playing in the background, and the musical outro that goes with that video. Click the video. Click the video. Oh yeah. The links will be in the description box below. But if you don't want to hear the rest of the music, turn the video off right now.
Is it me, or have we been here before? Why don't we go somewhere that we can explore? So let's get away to where the skies are clear, and we'll go back in time to another world where we'll feel alive. We won't have to worry. With you by my side, there's nowhere we can go, and you can be my bride. As long as you don't want to take me there, take me anywhere you want to go, to a place that we both know. With you here, there is nothing left for us to fear. We'll make the bad guys disappear.